Hey, and welcome back to another Learning Java 2D Game Programming video. So, in our last video, we introduced the JFile chooser so that we can save our map files to wherever, and that means that we can have several map files. So, I made a couple of different maps. So, this is one for the menu, so we don't always have to look at this map, which we've done before. And then the high score menu got this sort of pool in the background, which makes it easier to see this text. So that was great. But while making these maps, I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could auto-generate the maps? So our maps are very simple. So we could probably get away with doing something very simple. So let's try to make something very simple that can generate some maps for us. And my game plan is first, I'm going to go through all of the tiles in this empty map when we are generating it. And we're going to have some low threshold. And for each tile, we're going to generate a random value. And if it's below that low threshold, we're going to create a water tile there. And so then we're going to end up with a couple of water tiles. And then for each of those water tiles, we're going to grow them. So we are going to look at the neighbors. Each neighbor is going to check how many orthogonal neighbors do I have of the same type. So orthogonal is, I hope, the not the diagonal. So here's a diagonal, and hopefully this is the orthogonal. So how many of these orthogonal neighbors are the same tile as me? Or rather, I think we can get away with just checking, do I have an orthogonal neighbor that is the same tile? If not, we're not creating one here. And we're doing this because our art does not support having one tile here and one tile here. We have no art that will connect these, so it's going to look weird. That's why we don't want the diagonal tiles to become anything. So here, it's going to be like, yes, I do have one. Great, so that one becomes one. Now this one becomes it. This one becomes it. Here, 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 but not here. And this will probably maybe create some weird looking maps. We might still have some value, so it doesn't always create one. We'll see what we do, but it's going to be very simple. We're going to make it happen. And after we've done this, when we make our roads, let's make use of the path finding algorithm that we have. So these aren't going to be walkable, right? So if we were to get, maybe we have a start position here and we want to get to here, then it's not going to generate a road like this, but we're using our pathfinder, so it's going to generate a road like this. And that will probably make that look a little bit more natural, perhaps. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So this way we can make a very simple map generation from the tools that we already have. So after we've done all of that, I was thinking we could go through each and every tile, and then we can ask our different scenery objects, can you be placed here? And maybe the tree will answer, well, if the tile is grass, then yes. And maybe the lamp post will say, if the tile is dirt and it is a left edge tile, then yes. So when we've asked our sceneries, we'll have a list of different sceneries that can be placed in a tile, and then we'll generate some random value, and we'll see, like, we make a draw of the candidates, and maybe we generate that nothing should spawn on this tile, or we generate that a tree will, or, you know, any of those things. So that is the game plan. So let's get to it. I don't think we'll have the time to do all of this today. Hopefully we'll get somewhere with, maybe we can at least generate the water patches. Let's make a new class. I'm going to call it map generator. And this will have a static method, I think. So public static game map generate. We'll take in the size and the sprite library. So let's import size. Now let's first define the tile that we're going to use. I'm going to call it water. So this needs the sprite library, the name, and whether it's walkable or not, and this is not. All right, so let's create a new game map. So of the map size and the sprite library. Now let's make a method called generate patches, which will take the game map. It's going to generate it on the type that it will generate and some threshold. So I'm going to make a very low threshold. So 0.005, a 0.5% chance that a water tile will generate or will be placed on each tile. We're going to do this. At the end, let's just say return game map. And let's make this method chance of tile. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I want to keep track of the positions that we generate the tiles on, or the water tile in this case. So I'm just going to create a set to store that. I think I'm going to call it patch spots. So here I'm going to say for int x is equal to 0, x is less than game map get tiles dot length x plus plus. Do the same for the y. All right, so now we need a random value that we check against the chance. So if this random value is less than the chance of the tile, then we are adding it to our spots of grid position x and y. And also let's make that tile set tile at x and y to tile copy of the tile that we sent in, and I see that it's called water. I want it to be called tile. All right, so then we have placed one of these tiles there. So now, once we've done this, we want to grow these tiles according to the thing that we talked about before, according to those rules. So I'm just going to say grow patches, and I'm going to send in the game map. I'm going to send in the patch spots and the tile that we are using right now. All right, great. So now that we are growing them, I'm just going to start by printing out how many we got, just for debug's sake. Like so. And now we are going to do this for each of those spots. I'm going to call it spots. So like we talked about before, I'm going to go through the neighbors and check if there are any orthogonal neighbors with the same tile. And then if there are, which there will be, we're going to grow the ring again, and we're going to check once more if there are any orthogonal spots. So that's what we're doing. To be able to know what size of the ring I'm at, I'm going to keep a size. And then I'm going to have a Boolean still generating. So now we're going to do while. We're going to do something while we are still generating, and the size is still less than 5. And we need to set this because otherwise it could potentially go on forever, right? And probably would. So for every loop that we start, we're going to increase the size, and we are going to say that still generating is false. Now let's do a double for loop, spot.grid x minus size, while x is less than or equal to spot grid x plus size x plus plus, and then for int y is equal to spot.grid y minus size y is less than or equal to spot.grid y plus size y plus plus. All right, and here I'm just going to define a Boolean, and you wouldn't have to do this, but I don't like when you have if statements with just a lot of text. Sometimes it's fine, but we're going to make several checks now. So let's make Booleans just to name them so that in the if statement, we can see what they're doing. So I'm going to call this Boolean is not outer loop tile. So we're going to check that the tile that we are looking at is an inner tile, so not at the edge of the loop that we are on right now. And that means we're not going to use it. So that is if x is larger than spot grid x minus size, and x is at the same time also smaller than spot.grid x plus size. And on top of this, y is larger than spot.grid y minus size, and y is also less than spot grid y plus size. So what all of this means is that the current tile is not an outer loop tile. So let's now do this. If the grid is not within bounds of x and y, or if it's not an outer loop tile, then just say continue. So it will continue on with the next iteration, the next loop. But if not, then let's check if we have orthogonal neighbor of same tile. And then GameMap is where we're checking that. The position is the grid position of the x and y, and we are using the tile. So let's just create this method. And just gonna call this maybe position. Maybe we want to call it spot because we've done that in the other places as well. So let's do that now. So first of all, the double for loop, int x is equal to spot grid x minus 1. It will go on as long as it is less than or equal to spot grid x plus 1, x plus plus, same for the y. All right, and again, let's define some Booleans with names so we can see what's happening. I'm going to say Boolean is orthogonal neighbor. That will be equal to x is equal to spot.grid x, or y is equal to spot.grid y. So if any of these are true, we're at one edge. And let's also say is current spot, so the middle one. That is if x is equal to spot.grid x and y is also equal to spot.grid y. That means we're at the center, so that's always going to be the same tile, so that's not very interesting. Now let's make our if statement. So if game map grid within bounds x and y, and also is an orthogonal neighbor, and also is not current spot, and GameMap get tile at the x and the y is same type as this tile, and we don't have that yet, so we're gonna have to make it. So I'm just gonna alt enter, create method is same type inside of tile, and the only thing we have to go on is the name. So tile name equals tile get tile name. That means it's the same type. If they're both named dirt, they're both dirt. So if all of these are true now, if we've made it past here, then return true. We have at least one neighbor that is orthogonal to us with the same tile. But there's one more case that might also return true. And that is if it's not within the bounds. So just like we do when we auto tile, we treat tiles that are outside of our map as if they are the same tile. So it will look like the water in this case goes on outside of the map. So we want to return true here as well. And if we made it through all of this, then we don't have a neighbor of the same type. So return false. All right, so now we have an orthogonal neighbor of the same tile. So that means we can set the tile here on the X and the Y to a tile.copy of this tile. And also we are still generating. Great. So let's test this out. Let's use this generate. So go to your editor state, UI. Let's go to the UI button menu. I'm just going to duplicate one of these. I'm going to call it generate. And I'm going to say this generate map. I'm going to create that method inside of here. So I'm just going to start by generating a map. Map generator generate new size. I'm going to give it 32 by 32. That's what our default maps are currently. And I'm going to pass in the state get sprite library. And then we need to make a method inside of the state called set game map. Pass in the game map. Create that method inside of state. Make sure you didn't create the abstract method. And currently, let's just do this game map is equal to game map. Later, we're going to probably have to think about what we're going to do with if there are pre-existing game objects like sceneries and things like that. But we don't have that yet, so let's hold off on it. So now, if we play and go to our editor and press generate, then you can see that it generated these big pools of water. So currently we're not auto tiling. That's why it looks weird. It just picked like the top left tile inside of this water tile set. But if you look at the shape, I mean, this is fine, right? Our art is very square. So these are only like very square pools is the only type of pool that we support. But yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to see how much time I've used, and I've used 18 minutes already. So I think we'll do the auto tiling as well, and then we'll call it a day, and then we'll do the roads in the next video. So let's do the auto tile as well so that we can see what happened to us. And the auto tiling is currently in the tile placer class. So let's grab it and cut it out and move it to the game map. So let's see, map, game map. There we are. I'm just going to paste it at the bottom, and we're going to have to go through it and fix some stuff. So auto tile took the state, but I think it only used it to get the game map, and now we are inside the game map, so we don't need the state. However, we do need now the position of which we are auto tiling, because that we don't know. So we don't need this. We can say position grid X. I'm just going to copy this here, position grid Y, or sorry, position grid X again, here, position grid Y, and there as well. So now we can just get rid of this game map, this. Neighbor tile isn't going to need game map anymore, but we're going to have to change it. And we don't need to do any of this. Just do that. In here, let's not take in the game map. And remove all of the game map stuff. All right, I think we fixed it enough. Let's just fix this again. So I'm going to say state get game map auto tile right, and that's not public. We need to make it public. But let's just position of grid position, grid X and grid Y. All right, so if you put your cursor there and Alt Enter, you can make it public from here. So that's fine. Let's just quickly make sure that this is still working in the editor when we place tiles. I'm going to get a water. I'm going to turn on auto tile, and it does. Great. All right, so now let's, in our map generator, once we've done all of the stuff that we're going to do at the end, let's go through our map and auto tile it. So auto tile to pass, we need to pass in the game map. There we go. So create that method. And here, let's do the double for loop. Is equal to 0, x is less than game map, get tiles length, x is equal to x plus 2. So as you remember, when we auto tile, we already auto tile each tile's 8 neighbors. So we don't need to go through every single one. We can skip every other, maybe even every third. I'm going to start like this. So that's a little less load for our algorithm. And then game map auto tile position of grid position x and y. So that should do that for us. All right. As you can see, we are getting water of different sizes and sort of these little pools. As I said, they're looking a little blocky, but that's the only thing that our art currently supports, so this works well for us. And it might still sometimes generate cases that we cannot handle, so eventually we're going to have to go through the map and clean up stuff that we can't handle. So there's no art currently that supports connecting these two tiles, so we're going to do that. But this will be it for today. We have generated pools of water, and sometimes they're very large, sometimes they're not, sometimes they merge into one, sometimes they look like this. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Hej då!